look at what's happening in other parts of the world. So for those of you who don't know a lot about the different types of ways that we can do regional collaboration, this is meant to give you a bit of background. So why do we even bother with regional reference frames when we already have ITRF? What is the advantage of densifying these regional networks? For mainly mathematical reasons, you have to restrict the number of sites that you can include in the determination of ITRF. It's impossible to include all the sites from around the world. So part of that is done, and it restricts the number of sites you could have in ITRF. But then when it comes to having a regional reference frame, you can bring in extra data sets and densify it to help understand geophysical processes in particular that might be more regionally specific. That becomes a really strong basis for the national geodetic datum development, as we've discussed. The other benefits is around learning and working together. You end up building a network, a group of people that you can collaborate with and learn from. I've seen that work very well in Europe, in Americas, in Asia Pacific. And as Zahir and I will show you with some slides later on, and why it's particularly a problem in the Arab states and in Africa, where they currently don't have functional regional reference frames. And if you think you've got data sharing problems, you should see some of the issues that they've got. By going through this process and basing in the development of regional frames on scientific merits, the process that is done within the IAG to get these sub-working groups together is phenomenal. It does such good work to bring people together, get them to share their data, whereas in what we're finding with the other two regions I mentioned, a lot of it's tied up with discussions around their militaries and defence programs and the lack of data sharing, which is significantly inhibiting their ability to do the science that they want to do. So here's some examples. This is a summary for you to take away, but we just covered it then. The regional reference frame for Europe, we're talking about it being fixed to the Eurasian plate at an epoch of 1989. Static, 2.5 centimetres a year you were talking about. And to handle it, you need to apply some sort of model, kinematic model, plate motion model, whatever it might be. As Zahir mentioned, coordinate velocities are minimised. It took me a while to work out what that meant. They're minimised, they're not eliminated. And so what this was referring to is that you do your best to reduce them, but you're still going to have these residuals. And as we saw from the plot that Jeffrey showed, these can be quite significant residuals that are still left over due to the variability in terms of seismic activity and crustal deformation that you're getting in different areas, and the plate flexing issues related to there's a stable part and then there's some unstable parts of the plate. If we then have a look at the Asia Pacific reference frame, it's quite different method of doing it, and it's closely aligned with some of the discussions you've already had. But the regional realisation there is because it's not a single tectonic plate, but it's a direct realisation of ITRF for the Asia Pacific region. So it's a time-dependent reference frame. So the APREF Central Bureau that coordinates this provide updated coordinates to reflect updated motion from tectonics or seismic every week. And then some of the national geodetic datums use this time-dependent APREF as the constraint for their national datums, and that's what's done in Australia and New Zealand, for example. So in Australia, they've used a plate motion model based on the combination of the APREF data to propagate coordinates between a datum fixed to ITRF 2020 and current day. And New Zealand are slightly different because they have a lot of seismic activity. They have a deformation model as opposed to using a simple plate motion model to propagate coordinates between their national static datum based at epoch of 2000 and ITRF. So that regional time-dependent reference frame is actually supporting applications in the Pacific where the plate motion and scientific seismic activity are significant, and that's particularly relevant for things like earthquake monitoring, tsunami warning and high precision navigation. So the bottom point, while both ETRS 89 and APREF are serving as regional geodetic reference frames, their operation and design reflect their respective tectonic environments. ETRS is static and it's tied to the Eurasian plate, well suited for a relatively stable continent, whereas APREF operates dynamically and in a time alignment with the ITRF, which was reflecting the tectonic activity and complexity of the Asia-Pacific region. So these are the kinds of things to be considered by the European community and particularly by this working group. For those of you who aren't familiar, this is a bit of a breakdown of how those regional reference frames are dealt with within the International Association of Geodesy. There's the Commission 1 and the sub-commissions underneath that. For Europe, South America, North America, we have Africa in name. We're still working to get it in function as well. Asia Pacific and the Antarctic, and as you can see, there's not one separate there for the Arab states, and Zahir's been doing a great job looking at how to best try and integrate those countries into these regional reference frames discussions. So we were looking at the EUREF example before. Here's the APREF example and the number of stations that they have. This is the densification through the Asia-Pacific region. There's over 1,000 in 2023 GNSS core sites that are included. 330 of those go into the determination of IGS 20. There's 3 different regional analysis centres. The combination centre and the Central Bureau is at Geoscience Australia, and then there's 2 other analysis centres that are then used to build the cumulative solution combination as well. So there's the core sites from the Australia region. Just to show you the difference between the number of sites you can see that are in there from a regional reference frame versus those that go into the determination of IGS and ITRF. You can see there's a significant drop-off, and if we only had those solutions in the regional reference frame, we'd be losing a lot of that detail that we want out of a regional reference frame. That's the advantage of having a regional frame. This is also an advantage of having a regional frame, as it means that we can bring in partners. So Australia and New Zealand work very hard with other Pacific Island partners to bring them into the conversation and assist them with capacity development and also with infrastructure to make sure that they're integrated into ITRF and into APREF. So here's an example where through that aid work, along with the Pacific Geospatial and Surveying Council, it's a group. It's just like this European group, but it's a group of Pacific surveyors and geodesists who get together and talk about how they can help each other out. This was an example where Fiji used the advice coming out of that council to build 8 new stations within their country and then integrate those into APREF as well. I won't go through EUREF. I think we've covered that significantly. If I come to the Americas, though, this is SERGAS. In English, I won't try and say it in Spanish. I'll just embarrass myself. But in English, it's the Geodetic reference system for the Americas, and it has roots throughout IAG and also the Pan American Institute of Geography and History page. And it's got 3 different working groups that they have involved at the moment. One's working on reference system. The second is around SERGAS at the national level. So how do we, as we were talking about here, how do you do these country realizations or implementations? And then the third working group is around vertical datums. And they're a very active network. They have over 500 stations, regional analysis centres, combination centres. They've got a VLBI analysis centre, SLR processing centres. They are really going from strength to strength in terms of how they're developing their skill sets and building capacity and running training workshops. I've learnt a lot from working with them, and they do a great job at engaging with people from the community and bringing in expertise when they need it. So they've been running workshops, for example, around airborne gravity collection and ground-based gravity collection, which is really critical, particularly for the South American countries. And they're also trying to get a great deal more inclusion from the Caribbean states, who have traditionally not been as active within that group, but they're trying to bring them in. And I think they're doing a great job of being inclusive and trying to help build capacity within that region as well. And again, they're building on that technical guidance. They're providing a lot of this technical documentation. I took notes of I knew some of the that you were doing in Europe, but you mentioned a couple of others today that I wasn't aware of. So I think that's brilliant. I'll add that to our collection as well. I won't go through the details of this. I just want to touch on a couple of others though with AFREF. And actually, Zahir, if you're happy to, I'd be happy to pass over to you to maybe, if you want to give people just a small history of the discussions around AFREF. Thank you.
Yeah, well, AFREF was difficult to bring to the activities like UREF, APREF, etc. So we tried this exercise with Richard Wonacott from South Africa, and he is retired now. And he was successful in bringing 5 analysis centers to determine coordinate for these blue points that you see in the map. So we did that exercise. Next slide. And then we determined actually the red point are the IGS point. They were processed in the same time as the blue points in order to transform the coordinate and express them optimally in the ITRF. And then you get your blue stations coordinates expressed in the ITRF. That's it? Or you have? No, that's it.
Yeah, that's fine. Thanks. This is just a couple of other slides that were provided to me from Fernand, who's one of the co-chairs of our subcommittee. And I think he wanted us to highlight, as we're talking to people around the world, that particularly if you look at the picture in the bottom right, this is something that he and one of his colleagues, Aslam, from South Africa has told me about. One of the biggest things that they wanted help with was how do they take their current data set and get it digitized so that they can then work to transforming it into a more modern reference frame. They feel like they're losing, over time, they feel like they're going backwards because they can't bring their old data up to speed. So this legacy issue is a severe problem for them. And the last thing I wanted to touch on just briefly was the ArabRef. So Zahir and I were recently over in Saudi Arabia. They are very keen to develop some sort of regional system. They recognise the value of having a regional system, but the biggest issue that we keep hearing about is data sharing. This is quite an issue within this region, and it's because the history of having this information shared isn't there the same way it is in Europe or the Asia Pacific. So trying to do that, maybe in today's political climate, I'm not sure, is it more difficult than it used to be? Whatever it is, there is a range of problems. The good thing is they're at least meeting at the table and they're having these discussions about, you know, what are the advantages of going through this process. So just to give you a quick history of the background, they do have a working group. They are looking to progress, and Zahir's been doing a great job in being an advisor to them. They're saying all the right things, and there's the agreement there that they're looking to align and implement the General Assembly resolution. And the main function is obviously the main function of us being there is to try and build that, build the awareness around the benefits of what they will get if they go down this path. But we also can't do it for them. As you would know, if in any region, it needs to be driven internally. So this is a problem that we're having within Africa and the Arab states at the moment, is identifying those regional leaders who are prepared to step up and champion this initiative. So I'll stop there. We've still